adjuncts and the use of adjuncts. Let me introduce it at least by saying I probably have only one insight that might be at all useful in this. I'll share it early. But then I want all the insights from you all, and if we can just talk to each other, this should work. Sometimes it really is better to be lucky than smart. And I figured that out after I had taught a capstone course that I created for 5 years, and it was going very well. We limited it to 16, and we constantly had a waiting list, and the students were giving excellent feedback. And it was a corporate acquisition, a management leverage buyout, because it teaches both a corporate transaction and it teaches finance, which I wanted to do. I wanted to teach finance in all the deals that we teach, plus just basic deal structure of a particular deal. And then a partner retired from a major law firm and came to the dean of the law school and said, well, they put me off the pasture over there, but I'm not ready to quit. You got anything I can do over here to help? Well, he'd been a deal lawyer. And so the dean saw a great opportunity, loved the courses that I was teaching, said, yeah, why don't you have him teach? So I was not about to turn him loose with one of these courses. Instead, we team taught, and it was magical. That's the best insight I can give you. If you can pair an adjunct with experience in the area with a full-time academic, it will be magic in the classroom. At least it has been for us every time we've been able to do it. Because the two people have different kinds of credibility and different experience. I can make sure we don't miss an academic teaching point. I've taught so many different things that I can make sure we get back to the basic contracts issue, and I know when it was taught in their contracts course or courses, and I can make sure we don't miss a property issue or a secure transactions issue or a payment systems issue or a bankruptcy issue and so forth. Of course, one of the benefits is you get into this after you've taught 19 or 20 years and you become the utility infielder. Still, I can make sure we catch kind of the teaching points, and I can remind them where they studied this before, although their pat response when I say, now you do remember this from contracts too, don't you? Of course, somehow they learn very early that the correct answer is, oh no, we never talked about that at all. But they do. And I just make sure we kind of tie in where they have talked about it academically, where I can, with, now here's the practical application of this. But then the adjunct, who's out there doing this or has recently been doing this for a living for 25 years or 30 years or more, they know the deals, and they know the options, and they know the real issues, and they know what the clients are concerned with, and they know what the law firms are concerned about in deals like this. They can make it real. I can make it academic any day, but they can make it real. And we just bounce back and forth. And it's never been a struggle. It's never been a competition. We agree up front that we will interrupt each other, we will finish each other's sentences, we will do whatever it takes to make sure we get across from both of our perspectives everything we think between the two of us, we can teach them. And it's worked so well that I have replicated it in the other courses, except for one, where I've got a guy teaching real estate who was a bank loan officer and president before he became an attorney, and then he did real estate law. So he knows the lending law background and the lender's perspective, as well as the real estate background. He's okay teaching. But with one of our IBT courses, we have an international business capstone that also involves intellectual property issues and a joint venture agreement. And what I put in there is, with their delight, a full-time faculty member who teaches international business and who wanted to teach one of these courses, and an adjunct who's an intellectual property lawyer for a big computer company who's in Houston. So, and who does, of course, lots of international stuff. So between the two of them, they were a perfect match to team teach a course, and they have the same experience that I have had. It's just magical in the classroom because of the different perspectives and background. Now that's about the only thing I can tell you is that I know that works. But that leaves lots of questions there.
David, before I make a comment, I want to let everybody know that I'm Eric Rubin from Western New England College School of Law. I chair the adjunct faculty committee for the section on legal education. This year we're working on a project called the Best Practices Report for Adjunct Faculty. So I was interested in this panel, but I also am interested if any of you have things going on in your shops that you want to share with us that we can include in the report if you're doing anything innovative. And I like this idea of the co-teaching a lot. I have a question about it. I'm going to send my cards around. I hope that you would email me to let me know so we can put stuff in the report.
I wrote myself a note in my bag to get back to you.
So, but my question is, are you paying the adjunct?
Yes.
Does it come at the expense of another course that might have been just solely taught by an adjunct, or did your dean make some money up here?
Our deans have valued the transactional skills program to the point that they actually let me arrange to pay our adjuncts more than we pay our regular adjuncts in academic courses. Because we not only tie them to 2 hours of class a week, we tie them to several hours a week of individual meetings with drafting teams, with individuals. Because you can't, that's the other thing that when it hit me, the course was 10 times better all of a sudden when I figured out that it wasn't enough to teach them a document and then have them turn in their draft of that document and grade them on it. What they needed was for us to meet with them and review their draft of a document and tell them what they did well and what they needed to fix and give them some guidelines about and how can you fix this. Go look at this form. Go look at how it was done in this precedent. And because the adjuncts are expected to participate in those meetings, and it takes sometimes lots of hours a week outside of class, 40 hours a week sometimes. I mean, you're just working on just this stuff. So I let the deans let me lobby successfully for more money for these adjuncts. Now, I mean, well, coming from a freestanding law school does have its advantages. Our president and dean are the same person. We don't have a university president to report to. We don't have a university that could look to us as a cash cow.
Because I've had some of those same experiences, and I want to throw out there that you can achieve some of this without paying for it, just by asking folks to come in. Maybe not the same person for the whole semester.
But a guest lecture.
Something more than a guest lecture. At the ABA, we had this thing we called the Law School Initiative, where we're trying to create templates so that...
Can I, is there any way I can get a microphone to you?
I don't care if this is recorded.
You don't care? Oh, okay.
No.
Okay.
But I want this just to kind of happen.
All right, good.
I need to leave, but I just want to, let me just interject before I go. Our situation at Emory is that we have so many sections of contract drafting and so many sections of deal skills going, we cannot pair adjuncts with professors.
I understand. I do. I understand.
But what we do is we train our adjuncts. Before a professor can teach contract drafting, that professor sits in for a semester. Before somebody can teach deal skills, they sit in for a semester, and then our deal skill courses are co-taught by 2 adjuncts, and we always pair an adjunct who has taught with an adjunct who hasn't taught. I mean, we have emergency situations where that doesn't happen, but that's kind of our model for the courses where we have multiple sections. And that works well. Bye.
That sounds great, actually. But
what?
That sounds great, but I'm not sure how many folks have a course like their contract drafting or deal drafting where you got lots of sections being taught by that. You do? Yeah. So anyway, let me just finish my thing about the guest lecturer plus. In secure transactions, for instance, I have, I want the students to appreciate the business context in which it occurs, so I have them read some outside readings about banking, and then I have a commercial banker come in to do that. We close the loan at the end of the semester. If I have a lawyer comes in and goes through, a lawyer would go through and close the loan. And just like David's saying, that the academic part is essential to gaining mastery, but they're so thirsty and hungry for, well, how do you actually do it? And what's the role that the lawyer for the lender plays versus the role for the borrower?
Carol.
In thinking about Carol Burton, Jacobs, Cleveland Marshall, we use adjuncts in a wide variety of ways. One of the things that I did actually last year, based on an idea I got from Tina, was to team teach with an adjunct. And I thought I would do it once. It worked so well. I liked it as much as David did, and I think I'll do it again and again. I've had experience with adjuncts team teaching. It didn't work as well. I had 2 pairs of them last year, and what I found was they each, in each sets of teams, they were less rather than more accountable to the students. They did this tag team thing, and it didn't work as well. I think teaming an academic with a practitioner in that way is a really different thing. And maybe it was partially the way I set it up, but that didn't work as well. To the point about getting things inexpensively, what I've discovered is that many of our adjuncts have to give them, if they work for a big firm, they have to turn the money over to the firm anyway, so they don't really care about the money. And they don't care, most of them don't care about the money anyway, because it's so
It's not much
small.
money.
It's,
And nobody's going to retire early on what we pay adjuncts, are
oh
they?
no, I mean, I want to say we pay like $1,100 a credit hour.
Yeah.
They can't even take it, like a long holiday weekend.
Right.
And especially if they're alone, because it can be a good development opportunity, a friend-building opportunity. They feel so great that you thought to ask them to come back.
Exactly. They really, really love it. So I don't, the money doesn't seem to be a big issue.
Well, but you should also, so I'm also at Cleveland Marshall, and I think one of the things that might be important for the adjunct issue is when taught this class, it was short. So it didn't require the semester long, it was a short intensive class.
Right, but we also have adjuncts. I have 10 adjuncts in the fall teaching a whole host of writing classes. And it's the way that we have managed to keep we have 7 full-time legal writing faculty, and to keep our first year sections and our first year courses small so the students get lots of individualized attention. Most of our full-time faculty teach in the first year, and then occasionally teach some of the upper-level courses. But we offer a lot of them, so we do that through adjuncts.
We use adjuncts for intermediate, what I think of as intermediate level courses, the contracts drafting courses. We teach both of Tina's books, and that's adjunct. Although, just as she mentioned, the first time it was taught was by somebody who wanted to teach the course, and we let them. Nobody after that has been turned loose in there unless they teach with this adjunct at least once. Because you have to train people on how can you make the most of these course materials, and how do you respond to various student issues and questions. So, we also have a different type of intermediate level class that is kind of like the capstone, except while the students have to mark up documents and they get a review, they don't have to turn in a final, vastly improved draft. We just kind of work them through, here's what the deal looks like, and here's why, and here are the documents. We work them through documents. It came to us just because, and this gets to one of the other questions on here, how do you find these people? They come to us mostly. I mean, you can go out and recruit them, but the truth of the matter is your best adjuncts are people who come to you because they want to do that. And so again, you kind of have to get lucky. But this is a guy who's a junior partner at a big Texas law firm who had some extra time. He's in real estate. Well, he had a little extra time. We would all understand why the last couple of years. So the firm, when he said he wanted to go teach, the firm said, "We'll support you. I think that's great. Go find something they'll let you teach as an adjunct." So he's teaching basically a real estate finance type course. But I didn't turn him loose in there. Because that comes under our transactional skills program. My schedule was such, in fact, I kind of arranged it. I got 2 things done at one time. I team taught it with him because I wanted to know what's in this course. What are you teaching in here, and how successful is this going to be, and how will the students, what will they learn, and how? It was a great course, and the students exceeded my expectations and his, I'm happy to say. But I was able to arrange it by one other thing I managed to do. It has nothing to do with adjuncts, but it's critical for these programs. I had another faculty colleague that I helped recruit and hire 15 years ago or more, who he was available to help with this program, and he told me that a couple of times, and there was about 1 course a year. He taught several different things, but he would be happy to settle into a consistent rotation. So I got him to team teach with my favorite adjunct, the corporate course, corporate transaction skills course. Well, now he'll be available once a year to teach that one. I'll be available once a year to get free from that and teach with another adjunct, and I'm going to teach an energy one next spring, a new energy capstone course. But for the adjuncts, if they come to you, you probably have a good one, but I don't turn them loose in there until I team teach with them, or I make sure they team teach with somebody else that I have great confidence in. I do ask for recommendations sometimes, and I will go ask somebody if they'd be willing. But I found really good success by them coming to us.
David, if I could follow up on that, and I'll freely confess I'm here to mooch off of other people's wisdom because I'm looking ahead to the need to use
that's what we're all trying to do. We're all together creating this area, and we are deliberately trying to feed each other's ideas.
Yeah, and I have little wisdom to offer, having no experience yet, but something that you said I wanted to draw into, which is that we know that we have more than a year in the future a likely need for adjuncts, and we're already getting people who are contacting us, so I actually feel pretty good about that, are expressing some interest, but I am a little concerned, and I was interested in what people had to suggest about the training issue, because I think what we're going to be doing is bringing in adjuncts to teach a brand new course component for the first time, and the full-time faculty we already have are going to be pretty well committed already, and I'm the director of the program and have a little more teaching flexibility, so I assume I'm going to be in there either teaching a section of this new component, or potentially, I like this team teaching idea, possibly team teaching, but I don't know that we're going to have the ability to do that throughout. So I was just wondering if people had suggestions when you're just getting up and running, you don't have that ability to have that interplay with more and less experience.
Pick the textbook for the course. Pick one with a really superb teaching manual. Like Tina's books both have superb teaching manuals. There are a number of just plain contract drafting books that have excellent teaching manuals with them. So that's key number 1. Pick one with really good teaching manuals. And with some adjuncts that have some experience, you could probably turn them loose with one of Tina's books. And they wouldn't teach it as well the first time as they will the third time they teach it. But they'd be okay. They'd be fine.
Number 2 of the new full-time faculty number 2. Yeah.
Well, as the token adjunct, let me offer some thoughts based on what you said. First of all, I do team teach with Tamar Frankel. We're both in the classroom probably 80 to 90% of the time. And I think that makes a huge difference versus the tag team approach. Because we're both there, we have the continuity to be able to go through. In our case, we're providing different disciplines. She's providing law, I'm providing business policy. So it's a little bit different flavor from what you're talking about. But a couple of specifics. One is developing your own materials, even if it's just supplemental to a core textbook. I think maybe a very powerful way of both engaging the adjunct, making sure that you and they understand the content that you're going to be providing. And because they helped create it, it'll be easier for them to teach than just picking up something else and trying to...
That's a very good point, because in all the capstones we have, the adjuncts have been major contributors to the course materials and the contents. That's a very good one.
That's how we've done both of the
Yeah.
courses. We do that way. I agree with you. Having people come to you is probably a whole lot better than you going out and recruiting. And so I think that makes some sense. The one thing that, having done this, at least at the U for I guess 3 years now, is the lack of connection to the school itself. And for me, it's not as big an issue, I think, because I spend most of my time at the Kennedy School. So I ride my bike down the river and go to BU, and then I come back, and that's fine. But even for me, after 3 years of being an adjunct, I'm wondering, where's the connection? It's clearly not the money, because that's about what you get paid. And I will say, after a while, that gets irritating. I mean, at first, the opportunity to teach is fun, and it's very engaging, and I still love to teach. But periodically, you sit back and say, I can't pay for parking. But I think the bigger issue is actually connection. And I wanted to go back and ask you a question. You were mentioning how with your adjuncts, there's more involved than just coming in, showing up, and teaching. And I would think that is probably somewhat a best practice. There's clearly a balance to be struck between so consuming their time that they just feel swamped, but also feeling that connection that they are part of the faculty as opposed to...
What would make you feel more like you don't want to go to faculty?
I don't want to go to faculty meetings.
Want to be on a committee?
But I'll tell you, we joke about that, but the first one is, at least at the U, every week there's a faculty presentation, a lecture. So adjuncts ought to be there. If nothing else, it helps bring up a bond and get them better attuned to what the school is trying to push. I'll go on one, I'll suggest one that you'll probably laugh at, but I think actually may have merit, which is being on the faculty candidate review sessions. At least the talk, the lectures that they give.
The job talks.
Right. I do that at Kennedy School, and I think Kennedy School senior faculty get something out of having someone else with a different perspective, assessing, just having input. I clearly have no vote, but the input itself. And for me, I kind of feel like, part of this system. So those would be a couple of...
That's a very hopeful suggestion, actually. And that is something I think we all battle. And I was an adjunct for a while before I decided this is what I ought to be doing. And I did feel not connected at all to the community college I was teaching. I showed up to teach and turned in grades and got paid, and otherwise, I'm not sure anybody knew what I was doing.
I have a simple suggestion that may be obvious, but I am a relatively new director, and the institutional practice had been very laissez-faire with at least the adjuncts teaching in my field. And so I was hesitant to sort of stick my hands in too quickly and get what I thought would be resistance. Last week, for the first time, I had a meeting of a group of adjuncts that I called who teach a similar course. And they absolutely loved it. And at the end of the meeting, I said, now what can I do for you all? Tell me what I can do to help. And all of them, 5 of them, said, let's do this again. Let's do this more often. Can we do this a couple times a semester? How about we do it in the middle of the semester and at the end? And what my full-time colleagues would have told me is, no way, they're not going to want to do that. They don't want you to tell them what to do. They don't want to be bothered. And it turns out that we're really hungry for it. So it was easy for me to do and really for
I was wondering about just periodic lunches. I mean, as much for the kind of the socialization component, but also for sharing insights and frustrations and experiences.
We do a lunch at the beginning, we did a lunch in the middle, but I've only had adjuncts for just this past spring semester, teaching 3 additional sections of contract drafting. And we would go to lunch. I would have my little notebook under the table, taking notes of suggestions that they were making, and so it felt more like a collaboration. Even though I had taught the course 2 times before, so you know, I had the syllabus and the PowerPoints for classes and teaching notes and the coursework and the graded assignments, all of that prepared, so I could sort of hand them the course, but then we could evaluate it as we were going along. Well, how did this exercise work in class? Did you feel like the students were getting it? You know, what are some options or some alternatives that we could offer to teach this skill? So I thought that was very helpful.
And I've done a couple of things that have helped with our adjuncts in the transactional practice. One is, they have an office. We assign them an office and put their name on the door. And we assign them back.
Each adjunct faculty member?
Each adjunct faculty member has an office they can use, but mine have an office dedicated to the Transactional Practice Center, and their name's on the door.
But they share that office.
They share,
Yeah, right.
but it's arranged so that they're seldom there at the same time.
Yeah.
And they're encouraged to come in, use the office, leave the door open if they want to, be visible. They're assigned a faculty secretary. It's always my faculty secretary. So there are people there that they get acquainted with, people they can rely on, and at least the ones that I use most often, I take them to a faculty meeting, introduce them, because they're going to see me hanging around with them in the law school, and they're going to wonder, who is this, and why is he hanging around with that guy or that woman? I explain. And that does seem to help them feel a little more included. And now, two of the three of our main ones are alums. So they already sort of feel included anyway. And let me tell you another key to selecting really an adjunct who will be happy to connect with the school. Pick one who did not graduate from a competing school. Like the guy I teach with most often went to Yale. We don't compete with Yale. We're not going to compete with Yale. But it works because he has no hesitancy doing anything he can to help us, realizing he's not doing anything to undercut Yale. He's just trying to help us and help students and help our program. So that can kind of matter too. But just things like that you learn after a while. You know, what seems to work.
I was going to throw in a couple of things on the morale point. Food helps, breaking bread. We have a dinner at the beginning of the year where full-time faculty and adjunct faculty get together, and it's a nice dinner. A few years ago, we instituted something that actually was quite successful. We started on our full-time faculty. We really pride ourselves on the quality of our teaching. Then we realized it's pretty much a solitary activity. So we decided to have a colloquy amongst ourselves each year at the beginning of the year. And then we thought, the adjuncts could probably enjoy this and benefit from it. And so we exported that to our evening program and invited them to participate. It was full-time faculty also, but the adjunct faculty also participated. They really like that. It validates them as teachers and as members of our little learning community. And because we're also breaking bread with the full-time faculty. Our Student Bar Association, probably around 5 years ago, started awarding Adjunct Faculty Member of the Year awards, along with the Professor of the Year award. And that was another big morale booster. I mean, it turns out that some of the students' most favorite professors are adjunct. We always invite them to graduation. Not many of them come, but being invited, I think, matters. There's certainly lots of other things we could be doing, and that's one of the things that we're trying to. The main methodology we're using for this report is we had a big survey monkey, and we have over 50% of the law schools have responded to this. So we're going to get, I think, a good data set. But getting the anecdotes and specific, innovative things that people are doing is what will make this a more readable report.
One last question I'll throw out or observation. So the one area that I really struggle with is grading. I have no problem teaching. But not having the level setting of having been in the institution for a while, I mean, now I am, so I have a bit of a sense, but for most people, how do you level set? What is the expectation? What is the grading curve? Those kinds of things. Very mechanical and mundane, perhaps, but probably pretty important to the students. And that's an area that I think perhaps other adjuncts also feel not quite sure how to deal with that.
Well, and the truth of the matter is that, at least at our school, and I suspect most others, that the grades in adjunct courses tend to be higher than grades from courses taught by full-time faculty, in part because the adjuncts want to be asked to, want to be invited back, frankly. What I usually do is, the first time around anyway, I have them run their grades by me before they turn them in, just so I can kind of give them any feedback they need to have. But I do tell them that for our courses, they're small groups. We limit classes to small groups, 16 to 24. And one would expect in a small class like that, and a skills class which frequently doesn't have an academic exam at the end. None of ours have academic exams at the end. It's writing. So we expect the grades to be higher. In fact, we just take it as given that some of the people we get to teach are only in there to repair their GPA. But it's okay, because we're going to help them despite themselves. They don't know the help they're getting, but they are going to get help. And it just doesn't trouble us if our courses turn out with grades that range from B up through A+ consistently, because it's okay. We give them a lot of help, we give them a lot of encouragement, they do a lot of hard work, and you know, that's the reward. And that's a way to make sure other students will keep checking into those courses. I don't apologize for that at all. I want the grades to recruit students. I don't have to do what first year classes do and weed out. I've been there and done that. I don't have to weed out. I've got to finish off these people for better or worse, so to speak. This has been great. I appreciate everybody's willingness to share, but I think our time is up, unfortunately. Thank you very much.
Facilitators.